Today, we're doing a deep dive into a really specific moment in South Africa, a pre-sentencing court proceeding for an individual named Kelly Smith.
And the source material we have is interesting. It's not just a dry transcript. It's described as an expanded narrative. So it gives us more texture, more detail.
The nuance, yeah. It helps paint a picture.
Exactly. Which is crucial for understanding the underlying dynamics.
So our mission here is to unpack what happened in this specific hearing. We want to focus on, well, two key things that jumped out. The mention of Pollsmoor Prison and this specific date, May 23rd.
Right. What did these details signal? What are the implications?
And what really struck me right off the bat was how it started. The judge didn't just begin with formalities, did they? They went straight to Kelly Smith.
No, it was quite direct, asking her about raising an issue specifically related to Pollsmoor. That's somewhat unusual. It suggests something might have already been flagged.
Yeah, it sets a certain tone immediately. Now, the narrative gives us this atmosphere, this courtroom setting. It sounds stark.
Cold, clinical, silent is how it's described, but also filled with this heavy anticipation.
You can almost feel it. This pre-sentencing moment, it feels like a real point of gravity.
It really is. It's not the final sentence, of course, but it's where the immediate consequences, the immediate future, start to become very, very real for the person involved. The weight of that is palpable in the description.
So then we get this initial exchange. The judge asks Kelly Smith, do you want to raise something while at Pollsmoor? And her response, formal, but the narrative notes a slight tremor in her voice. She acknowledges Mr. Severine.
That's her defense attorney. And then there's this moment where he consults with her, right there. A quick, probably hushed conversation.
You imagine the tension there. And then straight after that, the judge brings up transport. Says arrangements for the 23rd need to be made with the police.
Yeah, and that detail about transport seems almost mundane at first, doesn't it? Like just procedural stuff.
Right, just logistics.
But it quickly becomes clear it's not about arranging a ride home.
No.
The context makes the destination obvious. Pollsmoor Prison. It implies a decision about her immediate detention has, well, effectively been made.
And Pollsmoor, the narrative really leans into this. It calls it notorious, a place that swallows people. That's strong language.
It is. Pollsmoor isn't just a name on a map in this context. It has a very specific, very harsh reputation within South Africa. Overcrowding, difficult conditions.
Yeah.
It's widely known.
So mentioning it isn't neutral, it carries this implicit warning almost.
Definitely. For anyone facing time there, especially pre-sentencing, it signifies a particularly challenging period ahead. It's not a neutral holding facility in perception.
Which leads to the judge's statement. Pretty blunt. Then we'll be taking you to Pollsmoor Prison until the 23rd.
Wow. Just like that.
Yeah.
Until the 23rd. That phrase hangs there. What does that time frame actually mean in this situation?
Well, it's 11 days. 11 days specifically in Pollsmoor before the potential sentencing. That's not insignificant.
The narrative calls it a purgatory. I think that's a telling word. It suggests this isn't just waiting. It's waiting in a harsh environment where time itself feels like part of the punishment, even before the official sentence.
A sort of limbo, but a very unpleasant one.
Precisely. And it raises questions, about the specific reasons for this facility for pre-sentencing detention. Was it deemed necessary for security? Or other factors. The narrative doesn't specify, but the choice is loaded.
Okay, so the court adjourns after this. And the narrative points out the different reactions. For some people in the room, maybe it feels like a step towards closure.
Right, towards what they see as justice.
But for others, presumably Kelly Smith's family or supporters, it's just more pain, more waiting, more anxiety.
Absolutely. It highlights that human cost, the ripple effects of these legal moments. It's not just about the individual defendant.
And then there's this final image described, Kelly Smith being let out in chains.
Yeah.
Her expression, the narrative says, is unreadable but defiant. That sticks with you.
It's a very stark image. It underlines the reality of the situation, the loss of liberty, the confrontation with the system. Defiant, though. Interesting detail.
It really is. So this brings us, and you listening, to the big question hanging in the air. What happens on May 23rd?
That transport arrangement detail points heavily towards it being the sentencing date, or at least a very significant next step where a final decision might be made.
Why else specify that date so clearly in the context of detention until then?
Exactly. So you've got this situation now. The country, perhaps, the families involved, anyone following the case, they're all waiting.
Waiting to see what her fate will be. But it's not just waiting anymore, is it? For Kelly Smith, it's about surviving those 11 days.
That's the immediate reality presented. Surviving inside Pollsmoor. It's not just a pause button. It's an active, potentially transformative, and certainly harsh experience leading up to the final judgment.
About a minute in, it's all logistics.
Like scheduling, consultations, the real nuts and bolts stuff.
It's not glamorous, is it? But absolutely essential. It shows how much prep goes in before the main event.
Totally.
And they specifically called for evidence on this. Social worker evidence.
To really grasp the consequences.
Which brings up that whole social context point. Around the 4-minute mark, the judge really hammers this home. Social reports must be prepared.
And the wording was key, wasn't it? Irrespective of whether the defense wanted evidence.
Exactly. It signals the state sees understanding the psychological fallout, the social damage, as non-negotiable for sentencing. It's beyond just guilt or innocence now.
Right. It's about getting the full picture. Now, these reports normally take, 6 weeks?
Roughly, yeah. But the court said basically, no way. Not feasible here.
Too long. So they were pushing for faster processing.
Expedited, asking the Department of Social Services to rush it, drafting letters to make it happen.
And the defense could add info, but the main thing was speed.
Avoid delays. That urgency really tells you how critical they viewed this impact assessment before deciding on the sentence.
Then, around 6 minutes, the judge asks if there's anything else.
And it's just a unified, no, my lord.
Like, okay, stage 1 of prep, done. We're all on the same page for now.
But then, maybe 30 seconds later, comes a pretty big decision.
The detention order. Kelly Smith to be held at Pollsmoor Prison until May 23rd.
Pollsmoor, yeah. That name alone carries weight, doesn't it?
It really does. It's known for being tough.
Detaining her there specifically seems quite pointed. It says something about how the court views the situation right now, maybe the potential seriousness.
And if you link that to the court dates they set next.
It really maps things out. Saldana on the 27th and 28th of May.
Then the sentencing itself planned for the 29th. It's like boom, 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 a clear roadmap.
A roadmap to judgment, yeah.
And the pressure wasn't just on timelines for reports, it was on the lawyers too.
Oh, yeah. Around 8.5 minutes in, the judge basically tells them they need to be out of the system of consultations.
Meaning work faster, more independently.
Seems like it. Less time for back and forth. Got to be efficient. The clock's ticking.
There was also that quick mention around 9 minutes of the aid position.
Right. Some bureaucratic thing. Takes about 48 hours. Needs coordination.
And the judge says, make sure it remains forward, keep it moving.
It shows the level of detail, you know? Even these small admin steps can't hold things up. It's about ensuring the defendant gets necessary resources, but without slowing the main process.
What really jumped out at me, though, was just before 10 minutes, the judge's instruction.
To bring as much information as possible for sentencing.
Yeah. It wasn't just about legal points. It was about understanding the full human cost of the crime comprehensively.
And then you get that slightly strange exchange around 10 minutes in with Mr. Boggs.
The judge asks if he understands, and there's hesitation.
Hey, no. Then not at this time.
It adds this layer of, human complexity. Or maybe confusion.
Could be anything, right? Resistance, overwhelm. But it definitely highlights the emotional pressure cooker situation this is. It's not just abstract legal stuff.
And then, almost bizarrely, after all that intensity, someone says, "Good morning, kind sir," around 11:15.
It is a bit jarring, isn't it? Such formality.
Like, what's the play there? Just maintaining politeness under pressure?
Maybe. Or maybe just ingrained habit. Hard to say, but it stands out.
So by about 12 minutes, the hearing wraps up. Courtroom goes silent again, according to the notes.
But the focus has completely shifted now, hasn't it? Guilt's established.
Yeah, now it's all about, what does that guilt mean? What are the consequences? How do you actually achieve justice here?
So if we boil down this deep dive, this hearing, it wasn't just ticking a box.
Not at all. It was intense logistical planning. A huge push for those social impact reports.
Strict deadlines, that really significant Pollsmoor detention decision.
And even those kind of uncertain responses from the defendant's side, hinting at the human drama.
It gives you a real behind-the-scenes look at the legal machinery grinding away in a massive case like this.
And for you listening, seeing these steps, it helps you appreciate the immense effort that goes into preparing for sentencing, especially when a case resonates so deeply in society.